sound.
Yeah. And then it's up. Turning that side.
Where's the light?
In the drawer.
The
One of
top
the
drawer
drawers.
of the cutlery.
Is it? Yeah.
Cool. Damn. I want to get the chat on my phone.
You should just be able to open YouTube.
Yes, if I can use my brain for half a second.
That would be horrible. Actually, that's kind of actually undercover. Oh yeah, you can
I checked the weather.
Yeah, but the weather is not always 100% accurate.
Now we just sit here for 3.5 minutes while 7 people listen to our conversation, but they can't see us. Oh, that
yeah.
keyboard.
They can hear us right now?
Yeah, they can hear us right now. Make sure you insult them.
Every single one.
Good day, randoms.
It's gonna hold us.
You're gonna sit after this.
Beep.
So, just check
I'm gonna play a video game.
I have a browser window open with the notes, and then obviously there's an Explorer window with the folder with all the stuff in it. Some of the stuff in it. Otherwise, just use the browser.
If I press this right now, will it change?
Yeah. Yeah.
What's the difference between 1 and 2 then? Like the same thing?
So one is just you guys. 2 got the PC in the bottom left corner, and then you
3
guys
is the main PC with us.
So are we going to 1 and then 0?
Yeah.
Yes.
But I would start unmuting the mic probably at like 30 seconds left or 15 seconds left.
Sure. It takes a second or two.
I thought you said that they can already hear us, but from that one.
Yeah,
On
that
that
mic.
mic, yeah.
So that's the ambient mic.
Ambient. So if somebody just like terrifyingly screams from there, will they hear it?
None of these mics are on.
These mics really good at not hearing that.
Yeah.
But that mic?
That mic can hear
is
everything.
currently hearing everything. So the moment you activate those, that mic is
Oh, cool. Technology.
OBX.
We lost someone.
No, please come back.
It might be me. I muted my phone.
I need validation.
Oh, the chat is in this window too.
Should I put go on my phone as well so we can pad the numbers? I have no idea what we're talking about.
Me neither.
Oh my god.
Polyhaven textures, cool. Thanks, bye.
Bye.
Have you ever seen like sometimes streamers come online and they start streaming and then 15 minutes later they're like, oh, I don't feel like this, and then they just
Yeah, I've done something with it.
What the heck?
No, like, dude, the other day I was streaming and I felt like actual garbage.
I guess that makes sense.
And I was like, I'm gone. But I also, like, I went, like, vanished for a year.
Vanished for a year.
Vanished for a year.
Why did we buy those 8-bit dudes and we could have bought a bunch of these? So many more buttons. Should we unmute this?
No, 15 people.
I just said 30 seconds.
No,
Does it really matter? It's not like beep.
no, you can unmute
my
actually.
God.
Go for it.
Anyway.
You can unmute something.
Is nobody like listening for audio quality?
We already listened. I'm gonna go listen. Once you guys start, I'm gonna go grab my earphones.
Oh, okay, but it's. Oh, there we go. Did you switch already?
It's hit 0.
I know, I wasn't ready. Okay, hello everyone.
Go.
It's been a while. I think the last stream we did was this time last year. It was also a Q&A. There were many more questions last time. Today we have basically no questions. So if anybody wants to ask something, just pop it in the chat. But yeah, today is Braai Day. Braai is a barbecue, as the Americans call it. and yeah, it's basically our last Friday of the year, more or less. So we're having a little gathering. Yeah. So we have a couple things to cover today. Hold on. Yandre, Janelle, Janelle.
When you scream, he picks it up.
Can you get the ball?
Yeah, it is.
It takes a while to get to my ear. How can I assist you?
Can you get the ball?
The
please?
doggo
Mac, come.
is popping off.
Come.
The ball first.
Oh no. Where's
Okay.
our
No, that
signal?
monitor is messed up.
Alright.
It's that HDMI to DisplayPort adapter.
Oh, amazing.
Cool.
These conversion adapters.
Okay. So, because we don't have too many questions to answer in this Q&A stream, I figured we would answer the questions that we expected people to have, which is more or less just, what have we done? What are we going to do in the future? So, first topic of the day is game development. If you've been following us on Discord or Patreon or anything, you'll be aware that we are getting a little bit into making games. And that's a little bit weird. Like Polyhaven is meant to be an asset platform and we just make assets. But we decided it would be a good idea to also make make video games on the side so that we can make sure that the assets that we're using are actually useful for one of the purposes that we make them for, so that not just useful on a technical level, but as a cohesive set of assets that go along a certain theme. And we've done that sort of thing as well with the community projects and with the collections like Namaqualand, but James will talk more about that later. But yeah, the game development idea is a big picture thing it's kind of meant to meet multiple goals, like diversifying the assets and making assets for a project, but we also want to tie it into the community project so that people can work on not just a scene together, but like a bigger project, and I think that'll be more fun. And the other purpose is just to see if selling games is a way that we could fund the assets. Like Polyhaven makes free assets, but giving things away for free is difficult to make sustainable financially. Like we employ people and we hire contractors, and that's how we can afford to make stuff. But where does that money come from? And there's various sources. I have a whole Blender conference talk about that. Yeah. But maybe making games is another one. So we'll try that. So obviously that's super ambitious. None of us have made games before until recently. But the idea was to get into it slowly and not try and make an MMORPG immediately, but go start from the shallow end and make something a bit smaller. So why don't you tell us about Splatterdash?
Yeah, well, I just want to start off by saying that I think it's really cool that we can do something that kind of ties into who we are as a group. Majority of us are like gamers, so it's really cool that work, that idea, that taste, if you will, is something that ties into who we are, like at our core, which is super sick. Splatterdash. Splatterdash was a small platformer game that we worked on for a month last month. Time is flying by. It was there and we worked on it. It was gone. And yeah, it was just a small concept, cool little idea, just to see how we work together. And obviously the idea was to see how we manage, how does it feel, how do we interact with the game engines the game engine we plan on using. And I think it ended up being quite an amazing time, quite a eye-opening time.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. The idea absolutely. Was like to learn and to basically give us a bit of background in game design. We don't really intend in becoming game designers ourselves, but to give us at least a bit of context and background for if we work with people who do make games better than us, then we at least speak the same language and can kind of relate to what is easy and what is difficult.
Yeah, I think that was the biggest thing about it. Like, I think the idea of making a game from start to finish and selling it is cool, But this project specifically was very enlightening. It was a very interesting experience, I think, for everybody. Just being people who play games and then being people who are just, decide to make a game. And yeah, it's just the perspective is so invaluable.
Yeah.
I would say.
So this particular game, small platformer we made in a month, like Dario said, and the intention was not really to make a real game. It was just to learn. But we did publish it on Patreon. So if you're supporting us on Patreon, you can find the post. It's fairly recent, and download the game if you like. But we're not going to take it any further than this. But yeah, the next step is kind of up in the air. Like, we have some ideas of what we want to do next year. Obviously, it's going to be more related to Polyhaven. This was more about learning, but if we're going to be spending time making games, we're kind of obligated to do that in a way that makes sense to Polyhaven as an asset platform. So making something for the purpose of making assets, but at the same time, like, trying a small game. And we're not going to jump into the MMORPG immediately either. We're going to do another small-ish thing, but maybe a little bit bigger, a little step up. And then we'll see.
I think it's another good challenge, honestly. Everything, whenever we take a new step, it hits us with a new challenge. And tying the quality of our assets into our next game project is going to be really something interesting to work around and work with and come up with ideas. So definitely looking forward to it, honestly.
Mm-hmm. I'm bad at this game. Yeah, I mean, there's not all that much more to say about the game development.
Yeah.
You can go back to number one, I think.
I think I would just like to say, for anybody watching, obviously this is not specifically like a Polyhaven thing to say, but I think I would definitely like to encourage people to go out and try things that they want to do. I think at Polyhaven we do a lot of things that we think we might want to do because they're like decent ideas, and we get that opportunity to try stuff, and then we end up enjoying it or just having such a great experience. So I would definitely like to encourage people, anybody watching or anybody interested in doing something that they're worried about doing, you should just give it a go. Just jump into it and see how it pans out.
Yeah, I think it's really nice that we can kind of, because we have this steady support from Patreon, we can kind of be a little bit free about how we explore the ideas of ways to make Polyhaven as an asset library work, because it's super untraditional. Like, if you're a more normal business and you sell things, like you sell assets, it's fairly straightforward in terms of making money and doing things that will, get you more users to make you money so you can do more things. But for us, the goal is similar in terms of making things, but how we get there is a bit more constrained. Like, everything we make has to be free. That's one of our guides, I suppose, or the assets we make. But it's not just about that. Like, there's 5 of us employed, we could go drive, just, go our separate ways and shoot HDRIs for the next 10 years, but that's not that interesting, and I think that's not as beneficial to the world. Maybe we'll do that one day, but for now the idea is to push the limits of what can be done with this kind of business, I guess. And also making games seems like fun, so
Yeah.
why not? Cool. Do you have anything else you want to talk about with the game stuff?
No, I wouldn't say so. I think I've said what I want to say. I do want to say, I've said this before, I guess, not on the stream, but I'm super happy with Splatterdash. I would love to continue Splatterdash. Obviously, that's not in the works, but it panned out way better than I expected it to. And that's why I'm like so stuck on wanting to continue it, just because I think it has so much potential. But
That's cool. I think I've also thought about if we could continue Splatterdash and how that would work. But I think from what we learned and the things that we would change and improve and add, I think it's better for us to take that knowledge and experience and put it towards the next project that's a little more closely related to Polyhaven. I don't want to go too far away from like the original goal of making assets.
I see. Yeah.
But that
Makes sense. Perfect sense. Absolutely. Yeah.
it'll be fun. Okay, cool. I think then you can mute your mic and go fetch James.
Cool. Let's switch on over. Cheers, guys.
I'm gonna stay here and answer the very few questions that we have. If anybody else has something to ask about Polyhaven, please go ahead. Otherwise, I'm gonna run out of things to talk about, and it's gonna be really awkward. And now the keyboard is really far away. Cool. Okay, we have 2 questions from Discord. Ulan, hello. I'm sure you're going to be watching this at some point. Are there any plans for more Photoscan food models in the near or general future? The answer is not really. There's no plans, like specific actual plans. It is one of the things that we want to keep doing. Hello, James.
Hello.
We should have really introduced ourselves earlier. I meant to mention that. I'm Greg, the founder. James, your mic is muted. You need it. Put it on first.
Green. Yeah, it's on.
Yeah,
First
but
put it on.
the reason we
Now
muted,
turn it on.
the reason we muted is so that when you're wrestling it, it doesn't
Why can't I just hold it?
explode.
You can, you want to be one of those
We're not-
influencers that hold their mic.
We're
and then
not
push
cool
it.
like that.
There we go.
Cool. Hi, guys.
Nothing yet. Cool. This is James. James does a lot of 3D models and organizes all the community projects. Dario, who just left, he's one of our main texture artists. And also, he's a big lead in the game design stuff as well. I was going through the questions. Ulan was asking, are there any more planned for Photoscan food models in the near future? And what might be the most difficult types of food to scan? So plans for food models, not like solid plans. We don't actually plan, well, there aren't any plans for that specifically. But like I said, it's something it's an obvious thing to do. It's fairly easy. You just get a bunch of food and you scan it. The thing is, with Polyhaven, there's a lot that we can do. Like, there's a lot of things that anybody can do, but there's many ideas and not that many people and very little money. So the idea is, the reason why, the answer to any question of why don't you do this is because we're doing something else. Like, we have other things that we're currently busy with. And if you watch this whole stream, you'll discover very soon that we have a little bit too much on our plates.
Yeah.
We've been doing a little too many things, and they've been taking a little bit too long because of how everything is overlapping. And we don't just sit down and finish one project, but it's like 5 projects are overlapping together, and we spend the year like doing them all at the same time.
Yeah. To answer the end of the question, what
is difficult?
would be difficult? Any wet
obvious.
plant. I mean, wet plant, wet food. Any food
yeah.
with shine. I think has to be pretty difficult.
It's also just about the rigidity of the food.
Oh,
so
yes.
if you're scanning something on a flat turntable, you need to scan underneath that thing.
Yeah.
Which means you have to be able to pick it up and flip it over. But if that thing is like slightly flexible, even something that you'd think is fairly rigid, like a donut, it's a little bit flexible, and that means your images don't align perfectly, and then you get some artifacts in the scan. But there's other food that's obviously way more wet than that. But you get some rigid things. We've scanned some food. It's definitely doable, but it's more of a, there's different approaches on how you would scan it and how you would position it. We have a setup in the studio with a black backdrop and
Skewers.
with skewers that you can balance things on, and it works pretty well. I think
And
there's some photos on
Yeah,
on
when
the
we get
blog.
to the later, there's some photos on the moon stuff that shows actually that exact thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, with one of the rocks.
Cool. Yeah, pasta, noodles. That's the other thing of like scanning something in a bowl means that entire thing is one scan. What if you want to replace the bowl and put the pasta in a different bowl?
Yeah.
Maybe that's just me looking at it and making up problems to avoid doing it. Okay, what are the similarities and differences between scanning food and nature assets?
I think they're completely different. I think if you, like most of the nature assets that we found are not necessarily photogrammable. I don't know if that's a word. But like you can't just rely on the photogrammetry aspect to make the plants. We'll probably get into it later with the Namaqualand stuff, like the challenges there and why that sort of took so long. But yeah, to answer that question, I think the plant stuff, even the most rigid plants, you sort of end up having to kind of manually make.
Yeah.
The only scannable parts are branches and logs and trunks.
If
And
you switch to my screen for a second.
Yeah.
The keyboard, can you grab
which is 3.
that? 3, yeah. So there's a particular model, I guess we're getting into the Namaqualand.
Yeah, well,
We'll come back to it, don't worry.
Sneak
But just as an example, the finger succulents.
yeah.
So there was a particular kind of succulent. Do I need to type it in? Should be at the top because it was one of the latest ones. I also can't see.
The top
Oh,
right.
there. Yeah, I did miss it. So this is a fairly rigid succulent, and I was so sure that we could scan this.
Yeah,
and
me as
we
well.
tried, and it didn't come out. This was like the only plant that's there that you could really scan. I guess we'd scan trees too, but even this was not just a raw scan. It was a bunch of manual work to put
Yeah.
it together. You could see like Dario, James, and Rico all worked on this one tree to get it to work. So the plants are a major pain in the butt, and that's probably why it took so much work to get
Yeah.
Namaqualand done.
And the Namaqualand's
Can you
like
pass that keyboard?
a lot of twigs as
Yeah.
well. So there's a lot of detail in the plants as well.
But I think, yeah, you and Rico are going to talk about that after this, so we'll
Yeah.
skip over that. I was just getting through questions. You and I, James,
Yes.
have community projects to discuss.
Yes.
So, what is happening with the community projects? Because the last one we did was the Hidden Alley, right?
And that was like last year.
And that was basically, we wrapped it up this time last year.
Yes.
And we constantly getting people asking like, when are we doing another one? So what's the answer to that?
We want to do more of them. The short answer is we've been busy, and so scheduling is, a project like that has been a little challenging with everything that's been going on. But the long answer is we want to do a lot more of it, and we're quite excited to do more. And we want to try and make it more ambitious. We want to try and make it more rewarding for people. And exciting, I suppose. And I'm sure you spoke about just before this the
Not
games.
much.
Okay, so yeah, we would like to do another game, and if we do another game, what we do want to try and focus and see if we can try and push the community projects in towards to make sense with like the game, so to make like a scene or assets or something for the game. And that way, I thought it would be pretty cool that people would be able to see their stuff like in a game,
Yeah.
and not just pretty pictures and renders.
Because like right now, anybody can go to Polyhaven and donate a model. Like if you want to make a rock and send it to us to publish, like that's amazing. We'll take it. The community projects are a way to encourage that more, and we kind of set a theme and we organize sponsored prizes and things like that. And that's a way to make something bigger that people are more excited to work together on. And I think that's super fun. I always liked that kind of thing when I was
Yeah,
getting into Blender. And what really got me excited back in the day when I was kind of learning Blender was the Sintel Open Movie. And I remember seeing a post from the Blender studio saying, like, here's a list of assets we want the community to make it. And I was super keen to do that. I was just not capable of it at the time. So I think there's a lot to be said about how much fun it is to work on a big thing together as a community, like with your friends or with people you don't know, and even just the learning side of it, like
Yeah.
getting feedback from professionals like James and the rest of us and other people in the community, and like making good assets. Not all the assets that the community makes gets published on Polyhaven. A lot of people aren't quite there yet in terms of their skill, but they still want to try, and that's super fun. And it's really cool that we can use that as an opportunity to like teach people how to make good assets.
yeah, and also try and foster a community of people helping other people grow.
Yeah.
I think that's, Greg and I both started using Blender artists back in the day. Well, maybe for some people it's not that back in the day, but for me it was probably like 2012, 2013.
Many years ago.
And yeah, the experience of taking part in the community projects and posting stuff and getting feedback from people over there was fantastic. And we want to sort of, do the same thing with our platform and have foster a community of people helping each other. Yeah.
Yeah. So the next community project is probably going to be, I want to say before June next year. It might not be, obviously,
Yeah.
we're not making any promises, but that's the plan. The idea, the plan is to build that into the game that we make. Somehow, we don't know what game we're making, don't ask. That's the hard part, is coming up with the idea of a game that's feasible to do on the scale and the scope that we want, with the team that we have, that ties into a community project, that makes good assets for Polyhaven, and is good.
Yeah.
It's a good game. So it's a difficult thing to solve, but we'll figure it out. And then the community project will be sometime around there, and it'll be something to do with the game that we make. And I think that'll be super fun. So it's not just a scene that people are working on together, but a playable experience, which for me is super cool.
Yeah, something more interesting than just pretty pictures and
Yeah.
renders.
Like for me, a lot of the motivation of my work, like my whole life, has been seeing other people use what I have. That's a big reason why Polyhaven is free. Like the reason I switched over from selling HDRIs to giving them away for free is because I wanted to see more people using my stuff. I didn't want to waste my time making things that only a couple people would use. I wanted everybody to benefit. And I think it's similar with the community project. Like making an asset is fun. Making an asset for a community, with a community, for a scene, a render, or just an environment, that's great. But making something that's for a bigger idea, for a bigger project, a thing that other people are going to experience, something that even people outside the Blender community or the CG community in general might play.
Yeah.
I think that's super motivating for me. Like I want to open Blender again and start making stuff. Cool. I think that's it for the community project.
So the question's coming through on Discord.
Yeah,
So I can keep
so
track
I
of
answered
it.
the one from Ulan. There's only one more from Hope. Hope
Yes.
was asking, what are the projects planned for this next year? Well, that's what this whole stream is about.
Yes.
We mentioned a few of it, a couple things. It's mainly the game stuff. There's not a lot else planned. Obviously, we're not done with the moon stuff and the fabric, and yeah, those are the two main ones. But you guys were
Yeah.
there. Cool. There were a couple questions on YouTube. So I will leave you to it, and I will abandon you, and I will go and fetch
Let me take your
Rico.
spot.
You can stay there. You can take the laptop.
He's going to have to climb over.
It's fine.
YouTube, you say? I can read them here, right?
Yeah.
How many have you answered?
I haven't done any of those yet.
All right. Cool. Hi, guys. I don't know how to use Greg's laptop. Okay. Braai, we are South African, yes. Hi, Randall. As you can see, yeah, down there we're going to have a braai, just to sort of celebrate. We got everyone here from near and far to sort of celebrate everything we've done this year. Hi from the UK, says Paul. Hi, Paul. I'm sure we've chatted before. Your name is very familiar. Jace asks, ever plan on promoting Polyhaven in more mainstream ways, sponsoring a mainstream Blender YouTubers or collaborating with one?
Here I am.
Hi. Your mic on, yeah?
I think it's on.
Yeah, you
Can
good?
everyone hear me? That's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can. Looks like I'm on.
Past you and just fix this table for a second.
I know it's been. I didn't know if that was purposeful. This was just looked like a disaster waiting to happen.
Greg is like doing maintenance on the table.
Thank
here.
goodness.
There's a camping table that's trying to escape.
Yeah, it was more of a trapezium than a table.
Cool. Thanks, Greg.
Or is it a rhombulus? Who
Yeah.
knows? It's a rhombulus.
Try and keep an eye on the time and don't go more than 15 minutes.
Okay,
Yep,
well,
gotcha.
I'll answer the question that I read from Jace.
Cool.
Ever plan on promoting Polyhaven in more mainstream ways, sponsoring a mainstream Blender YouTubers video, or collaborating with one? I don't necessarily think so. I think
Yeah.
a lot of the money that comes in goes towards creating assets, and I think we believe strongly in doing a good job and having word of mouth.
Yeah, I think the approach has always been that Greg has always taken has been like slow and natural,
Yeah.
which I think I really appreciate that, because you see so many, I guess, startups and small companies nowadays trying to grow at all costs, and we really are not trying to do that. We're trying to be all about the community.
Yeah.
and which that obviously you're leaving kind of profit on the table, but it's in the long term much healthier, I think. Like,
Yeah.
you build trust with the community. We're not trying to use all kinds of, I would almost say traditional
Yeah. They would be.
like ways. We're really trying to take it slow and be like quality over quantity in almost everything we do, right?
Yeah.
So and I think that applies in a way to marketing as well. Like, we're not, we've spoken a lot ever since I started a few years ago. It was like, hey, why don't you do this social media thing? And Greg would be like, yeah, sure, we could do that, but let's take a step back and think about long term.
I think at the end of the day, it speaks more volumes if people are willing to use your work and show off your work with absolutely no obligation to do that kind of stuff, then I feel like we're doing a good job. It says to us that we were on the right path if that's what people want to do.
Yep.
So funds are better used making nice stuff for people to talk about instead. All right, so Rico has joined me to talk about the Verdant Trail and Namaqualand, and basically the collections in general. So the Verdant Trail was something you guys did last year, but it wrapped this year.
Yeah, so it's a classic, I guess, polyhaven project where capturing the stuff is like a couple of weeks at best, and we would be like, oh yeah, this is going to go well, and then we come into the office and we're like, oh shit, we have to process all this stuff now, and it takes literally a year to get everything done.
Do you want to press 3?
Yeah, sure. Let me show you here.
What is that?
I might have pressed the wrong button here.
Nah.
There we go.
Why won't it show the picture?
I have no idea. But anyway, yeah, we did like literally just, I think, a few weeks of capturing, and
just
we would,
white.
yeah, there's like a white screen.
Oh, this is unfortunate. I don't know if they tested this.
Yeah.
I think it's an OBS issue. Okay, well,
yeah, you guys can go check it out on the blog as well. There's a post about it, but it's like the actual processing of the stuff that you capture is so much more work. It's like mass exponentially more work. Capturing in itself is kind of challenging, but literally just the post-processing, because we're such a small team, right? If we had like 20 people just working on this stuff, it would be easier, but we're just like 4 or 5 people working on it at any given time. So I mean, yeah, there's like a
stutter.
Yeah, it's stuttering a bit, but
That's
yeah.
fun.
This one was a lot of fun to work on. Like,
Yeah,
seriously,
it came out so beautiful. I don't have it
very,
here,
very happy with it. Yeah.
but I think on our Instagram and Twitter, Greg and you guys did a fake camera thingy.
Yeah, and that was Greg's idea. Came out super nice. Like, he literally went outside with his phone, I think, and he just took like a random. He sort of tried to memorize the path that I had built in Blender already, because this was like after we had like put the whole scene together in
Yeah.
Blender. And Greg was like, what if this were like a very amateurish
Phone
mobile
camera,
shot?
yeah.
And he went outside and literally tried to capture like this very, very crappy sort of camera move, the typical sort of terrible iPhone shot on iPhone meme thing. And it worked out great. I mean, I was surprised how well it came out, because he like memorized
Where the stuff was.
yeah,
in the scene.
It
the virtual
was
scene.
crazy. But yeah.
Yeah, so I think the other project we're going to talk about is Namaqualand, but I think
Right,
I just want to backtrack a little bit onto the idea of collections. So collections was something we knew from like pretty much the launch of Polyhaven on the model side we needed to do. Seeing like having assets that are closely related to each other, like it's very rare that you're looking for something in isolation. You're obviously often more looking for things that have got more in common with each other or fit in the same environments, or like cleaning products or those sort of things. You're never looking for just one.
Mm-hmm.
And so collections makes a lot of sense. And so we started with the Smuggler's Cove, and we've done like a pine forest, we've done the Verdant Trail, and then of course the 2 community projects are also collections. And our most recent one was Namaqualand. And Namaqualand is quite interesting because Namaqualand itself, I hope it's not lagging on the stream, but I have a feeling it probably is.
Yeah, you guys will have to go check out on the blog to like see it in its full glory.
Yeah, so the Namaqualand was it's a really interesting biome of like very specific and unique flora in the northern Cape of South Africa, and so we went out there into the middle of nowhere for about a week to capture HDRIs, textures and models, and plants and lots of plants and rocks and lots of rocks and more rocks.
Yeah, it became sort of, it was funny because I was like, no, we can never have too many rocks. And Dari would be like, really? A rock's a rock, you can have one rock. And I was like, I was putting together a little, before actually Namaqualand, I was putting together like a little example scene and I literally just used one rock and it looked fine, and I was like, oh, okay, maybe
This is not helping my point.
yeah. But rocks are one of those things, like I really believe it's like there's so many different varieties. There's like, and in the Namaqualand itself, they have like a very unique sort of
rock as well.
Yeah.
And that extends to the plants. I mean, like the plants, there was just so many different varieties of plants and species, like from succulents to sort of twiggy bushes and loads of different types of flowers and weeds and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And they all, so why the Namaqualand sort of took so long was each one of these assets sort of ended up being its own process. Like everything was different. There was very few that had stuff that could be transferred between each other, and every kind of type of plant needed to be sort of manually created. So yeah, it sort of ended up being a lot more work than maybe we thought of. So to answer an earlier question about the process of doing the plants, for a lot of the flowers and smaller and thin bits, we use a light scanning process. Let's find this one. A light scanning process to capture those little bits, and then we sort of build the geometry on that. So that's a pretty traditional sort of workflow, but for some of the bushes, we sort of had to get into geometry nodes.
Yeah, and that was mostly your work, I think, on this.
Yeah, this one in particular, but I think I
think you sort of handled a lot of the geometry node stuff.
Yeah.
On this project, because I remember being like, oh, I don't want to deal with this, and I sort of gravitated towards the more manual stuff where I would like put together stuff manually, the old traditional way.
And I think that shows like what, like even between people, you can have two very different workflows.
Exactly.
There's multiple ways to do this, and we aren't exactly sure what is the best way.
Yeah. I think we were in agreement. I remember having a discussion with you about like the larger plants being more fitted to like procedural stuff.
Yeah.
Because they're like trying to do a bush like those you just showed manually would be like insane. So like
manually place each leaf, and there's 320,000 leaves.
Exactly. So I was like, okay, of course, this lends itself to being automated a little bit, and geometry nodes is amazing for that. Like once we actually started figuring out like how to actually leverage all this automation that geometry nodes provides us, we really started figuring out like how to make stuff look natural. Because a lot of stuff you see online with plants and stuff that is made in geometry nodes is very CG looking. Like it's very, very. Now I wouldn't say we completely got away from that look, but I think we got we made like a very.
It's always a balance of trying to find.
I mean, nothing we made is completely realistic, but I think we got to the point where we got past like, if I can almost say, the uncanny valley effect for plants.
Yeah.
Which I'm very, very happy with, and I was blown away. I think when I saw the first. Like geometry nodes examples that you had made. So yeah, I'm very happy with how they turned out.
So to end the talk about Namaqualand, if you guys haven't watched it, we released a sort of behind the scenes video. It's about half an hour long, I think, of the actual trip, so you guys can actually see us in the wild and what we were doing, actually scanning the assets and taking the photography. And what's also really cool on this project is we did some drone scans of some rock faces and stuff, so bigger rock faces and stuff. So yeah, go take a look at that. It's pretty cool. We think it's a pretty good video. I hope you guys enjoy it.
Yeah, I think it's great. I think we should do more of that stuff where we just show the process of our stuff, because it lets people. Here we go. There we go.
Cool. And then the last thing is, are we doing more collections? So we've spoken a lot more about the game stuff and how we want to do that. And what we've also discovered with the assets is as pipelines become more offline, is it offline, online rendering, sort of more towards real time, and real time converges with like the offline rendering stuff. Assets that are used in game engines can start having like really good quality, high topology counts and all that kind of fun stuff. And so we are more in line now to be able to make those kinds of assets. So with the game stuff, I think the collections that we do will probably be closely tied to those environments and the stuff that we would need for the game, whatever the game will be. We don't know anything about it yet. That's next year's thing. But yeah, so we do plan to continue the collection stuff. As for like the actual trips, like Photo and Trail and the Namaqualand ones, I don't think we have any really planned, not for next year or really in the indefinite future.
Yeah, I think for collections and stuff, if we're continuing making more game projects, I think what we can expect to happen is probably more like modular stuff, because that's something that a lot of games just need right off the bat, a lot of.
Yeah.
So if we're ever talking about like any kind of urban assets or something where you need to build, for example, a dungeon or whatever, I'm just like thinking, you know, we're gonna probably be having a lot more modular type stuff, and I think that's very positive for the community, because that just adds another level of usefulness to these things.
Yeah.
It's great to have a bunch of stuff that's sort of random, but it's not modular. It's not like, and we have a few modular assets. I think we really haven't explored the potential of what we can do with that stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that fits very well with our ambitions to make some kind of interactive experience. Just something that is production ready, and you can potentially just download and have it like sort of work for you.
I think it's important that we use our assets the way that we intend you guys to use them, because otherwise we will just sit in this vacuum of making stuff and completely gloss over the actual flaws and issues you guys might actually have using them. So if we are using the assets the same way we intend you to use them, I think that would make for better quality assets in the long run as well.
Yeah, I agree. And like just having the stuff sort of be battle tested before, in a sense, before releasing it to the internet. I mean, that's great. I think we do that to an extent. We build these scenes before we release stuff, but like it's always like it almost feels a little bit rushed in a sense. Like it always feels like a little bit of an afterthought. But if we're building stuff specifically to have a working production or a working project that we want to publish as well, that is like a game, I think the stuff that we'll end up putting out will be a lot more functional.
Yeah.
Also, there's a danger, I suppose, that you could optimize it too much for your specific needs in that particular project. But I think we'll work with the thought in mind that, hey, this has to be really good for what we're trying to do, but we have to keep in mind that other people also want to use it. So don't over-optimize, don't under-optimize, just try and hit that sweet spot. And we've always had this discussion, right, where it's like, what is too much optimization? What is going too far? Or is our poly count great for the majority of the people? Because of course, you can't please everyone, right? So, but yeah, I mean, it's always a learning experience. We sort of figure this stuff out over.
I'm gonna bring Janelle.
Cool.
Looks like our time is up.
Yeah. So I will hand over to you.
Sure.
Let me just mute this.
Yeah, it seems to be still on.
It's off there.
Oh, cool.
It just doesn't change the color. Okay, so I put the blog up with that stuff, and then the Color Mass Fabric website is open. And if you can get them to display, there is some examples of the stuff already there.
Yeah, cool.
You good?
Okay, cool,
Then
thanks.
you know how to do the controls.
Yeah, I'll give this to Janelle.
Bye. Bye.
Bye, James. You good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Are we live? Looks
Yeah,
like
we're still good.
everyone
Hey,
can
guys.
hear you.
Yeah.
Here's
Give me my
you can play with the
controller.
cameras. Let me see if there's anything in the chat that people are saying.
I'll grab my phone. Give me a sec. I just don't have the Discord chat open. Hey guys. So I'm Janelle.
So we talked about the community project stuff just now, and I think we're going on to talk about the fabric stuff and what our experience was with that.
Yeah.
So I guess the first talking point here is how different is it to scan fabric? Like, what kind of stuff did we do that is like very much, you know, challenging and unusual and different from our workflow from like traditional scans and stuff. So I guess, I mean, I don't know too much about it. I think you guys, you and Greg probably did a lot of work on that.
Yeah, so fabric is a bit difficult to scan because it's also like translucent and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's a bit difficult in that regard. So I'm sure there we mentioned, and Greg also mentioned in the blogs, we actually used Color Mass, which is another company that got in contact as we were actually conveniently researching
Yep.
how to scan fabrics and things. So that was interesting.
Yeah, they actually really, they came in clutch really.
They did.
We were like getting ready to jump in. I remember Greg was building a whole rig for, so I guess we should step back and be like, okay, well, what's different about fabric for those who don't know? Like, so the way we do traditional scanning stuff is like we do photogrammetry. You go around and you take a bunch of photos of it. But fabric, being what it is very difficult to scan in that way.
Yes.
And we initially at the start, I remember we did like a couple tests and it was just a nightmare.
Yeah, so the fabric, because it's so reflective on some of the fabrics, and some of the fabrics got that little fibers and stand up, and just all of that, and then also like the light that can seep through it, and like there's so much things to fabric that you don't realize when you start, but once you're in it, you're like, oh my gosh, this is so hard. And then also like, there's so much things that need to happen in Blender, because like you might have like a really good fabric scan, but then you also need to have good reference to basically relight that and adjust the fabric within Blender to make sure that fabric fits correctly. Because like your scan might be like the best scan ever, but if your reference and stuff with fabric isn't good,
you're screwed. It's like, it's very, very sensitive to like very tiny things like your roughness or your, even there's like a lot of metallic that is sometimes used in the fabric materials, which you wouldn't really expect, because fabric isn't a metallic thing.
Yeah.
But for some reason, if you add in the wrong amount of metallic values, it just looks off.
Yeah. And then also some fabrics has like little transparent pieces of plastic in them and all of that, and that shines and that goes under your metallic map and stuff. And you need ways to scan that, because if you don't, it's not going to look right.
It just does. It looks like looks synthetic where you would want to have cotton, or it looks like cotton where you want to have some kind of synthetic thing. This is something that I often picked up. It's like the stuff actually has metallic values in it, which is really, really weird, considering that there's literally no metallic in the actual material. But I think fabric is one of those examples where computers really have trouble actually simulating the real world material. So like you said. And so we did the whole light scanning setup.
Yes. So we actually did fully build a thing for it where we could go and scan it and have reference and everything. You mind going quickly to the color mass thing again?
Yeah, sure. Is this one? No, this is something else, or the one I just had.
Yeah, the one you just had is fine. So color mass produces these guys, which basically, it's really nice because they already have an entire setup, a light scanning setup, which scans everything we need. So when they contacted us, we were like very happy with it and stuff. Like we actually like approached them as well and things.
They actually sent us stuff, and I was like caught off guard. I was like, "Whoa, these maps look weird."
Yeah.
And I was like, and I wrote up this whole document, being like, "Oh, this is wrong," but then I plugged it into Blender, and I was like, "Damn, it looks insane." So because they ended up giving us a bunch of extra maps that we actually didn't even know we needed.
Yes.
Like personally, I didn't know.
And we didn't even know how to get those maps.
Yes.
Like they have a
how
process
did you do
that's
this?
like private on them and stuff.
Yeah. So they came in clutch, like I said, and they just really, really gave us stuff that we were pretty confident that we wouldn't be able to achieve in a short time, at least.
Yeah, and on top of that, these guys have been scanning fabrics at this point for a very long, extended time.
Yeah.
So for us, it was like also they had the experience. They've been scanning fabrics for other businesses. So instead of us taking time and we've been busy, like Greg has also mentioned, we've been very busy this year and stuff. So it's just easier for us to go and be like, okay, well, let's use these guys. So this is their setup, and it's a really cool setup actually.
I will be honest, I don't know how this, like, I think maybe you could explain to us a little bit about exactly how it's being scanned, because I know it's for, what is it called, light scanning?
Yes.
Or, but how does that work? Is that like, you're not scanning it with a bunch of different camera angles, right? You're scanning it with by changing your light angle.
Yeah, so light scanning, what we call it, is more of a case of like you're scanning it by moving your light around, and by moving your light around, the computer can compute from, like, you'll have like a object or something in the scene. Usually we use like a silver ball or something, and with that ball you can indicate where the light is, and with that the computer can calculate the height and all of that of where the light is coming from, and then from that it can get the information basically from what the normal map is, the height map, and all of those information. But as far as, like, I don't know exactly if this is correct, but looking at the rig that ColorMass used, it also looks like they have some different methods that they have researched and development in their side, which is private, to get the different maps and stuff. Like, they have developed that to get it, so it looks like they have a light underneath that also illuminates the thing, and their diffuse is like separate.
Translucency values and stuff like that.
So, like, usually the way you'll get your diffuse is you'll combine all of those and get it, where they are using one single light on the top, it looks like, which illuminates the surface evenly, and use that as a single diffuse, which we also looked into, and that's
it's
the best way to do it.
It's a very different workflow. It's like your camera. So the main thing that I guess we had a lot of, I wouldn't say trouble with it, but we had a lot of time. We had to spend a lot of time trying to think about solving it. Is that the camera cannot move. It has to stay completely still, and you have to take like a series of photos from different lighting angles, and just have it like, work without. Even if you move the camera by a couple pixels, you're really messed up, because then you start to, it just starts looking blurry. Like, you have a very, very low tolerance for what you can, for how much movement there can be.
Yeah.
And we had it like on a carpet, like in one of the rooms here. And we're like just literally stepping on the carpet would be like moving the tripod just a tiny little fraction, and that would kind of mess up the scan.
Yeah.
So we quickly figured out that this is like a whole different science. And that's why, we were so happy.
And like, we've tried, like, the Sony cameras and stuff has tilt shift and all of that. We tried all of that, and the tilt shift didn't even work. That tiny little vibrations would still mess up the scan. And then with this also comes, like, they have probably a different method, but one of the methods we tried was, because we wanted higher res textures for the site and stuff, we separate the texture into 4 blocks and scanned it in 4 sections and combined it afterwards. And that is how we got bigger resolutions on that as well.
Yeah, so with photogrammetry, obviously you can take like 100 different photos, and you have this gigantic, absolutely massive data set, which you can get theoretically like 64K or 128K even. But with light scanning, since you're just limited by the actual sensor size of your camera, you can't do that necessarily. So we were like really playing around with trying to stitch stuff together and all of that stuff. But at the end of the day, we realized, like, we were going to have to invest so much time into this that it was really, at the end of the day, for us, not worth it. So having these other people come in and help us was very, very helpful.
No, it was really helpful, and I think we do appreciate them coming in and getting in contact. They also did give us a discount on all of it. Still cost money to do it, but
this
it was
not a
cheaper.
shill for anything, by the way. But like, we're just really grateful. And
we are grateful for them. No, it's really nice what they did. And then I see Wolf is asking your workflow to capture a real specular and roughness values for PBR textures. So for it is a bit different for light scans and photogrammetry. So photogrammetry, that comes kind of with reality capture stuff, and then we have programs and stuff to make the roughness map.
Yeah, so as far as I know, to capture a true to life roughness map is very, very difficult.
No, it is,
and you cannot really do it without doing like an insane amount of extra work if you just have like consumer level equipment. So what we often do with the roughness maps is we cheat.
Yes.
We literally just take
but
the
it
diffuse
looks
map.
very accurate to like what you would get.
Yeah. And for the most part, like, if you have a little bit of experience with it, you can be quite accurate just by cheating. So yeah, that's
Yeah, but to capture real ones, you will we use CPL filters and all of that to
Yeah.
essentially neutralize the specular and all of that stuff, because you want to get like a good diffuse and stuff. Where if you would like to capture like a specular and stuff, you would want to be able to take away the CPL and do the exact same scan minus that with your displacement, I would think, and then
yeah,
you'll get
you'd basically get specular values from your specular pass. That involves like either scanning everything twice,
Yes.
or having a camera that can somehow, or like a camera setup with 2 lenses that can somehow do both shots at once, or something like that. We never looked into that quite deeply.
because it's a lot of extra work, and
Yeah, it's
like we're not against work, but it's a case of like it's so much extra work that we would not have time to do anything else.
Yeah, and the equipment that you need probably becomes quite expensive.
Yes.
So yeah, it's cheating. We're literally cheating. But again, like roughness maps are one of those things that are like, that is something that is subject to a lot of change as well. Like if you're using the end asset, you probably want it to look a little bit drier, a little bit wetter, depending on your scene.
Yeah.
So you're changing the roughness map anyway. So we were like, okay, it's fine. Let's just give like a good baseline map that we think is reasonable, and we just like let people run with it.
Yeah.
And I think that worked out really well for us this far.
No, it did.
Obviously, again, for the fabric stuff, they have their own proprietary way of calculating it. But I can almost guarantee people that even that is some form of estimation.
Yes.
Like I would.
They're
I would be very
100%
surprised.
extracting map from one map over into another map. Sorry for talking over you, but it's very much like taking maybe from the diffuse some values, from the displacement and stuff, and from that calculating a new map.
Or like I know AI is one of these things that's like a scary word.
It's also controversial very much. Yeah, I've been
But
trying to avoid that.
There are some really legitimate uses for AI where you like estimate roughness maps based on a given input. So you could train a data set to estimate roughness maps of, and it wouldn't even take a large data set. We could use our Polyhaven data set and probably get something reasonably accurate. But yeah, I mean that's also just an estimation. Like you're not getting real world values.
Yeah. No, it's really hard to capture real world values on that. It is.
I just want to look at our document here and see.
Let's see what I think I rambled on for a while there. So.
Yeah. So we're talking about the scans, and then color mass, them approaching us.
Yeah, so that I already spoke about.
Yeah, I think we're
them.
fair. We've got everything.
So
I think.
just to touch on this, we did try and scan fabrics. We did.
We definitely did.
We
like
did.
Greg built a whole rig for it.
Yeah. So
you and Greg, I think.
Yeah, we did build the entire rig for it, and it worked really well. But the problem is, to make it beneficial for us to scan it, we need to scan a crap load of fabrics.
Yeah, and
And-
it just takes so much time. And
Yeah.
we were busy with Verdant Trail and in Namaqualand and a
And in
bunch of
Moon
other
stuff and
Winter
all of that
Moon.
stuff,
Like
yeah.
all of this stuff was just like taking all our time, and we eventually realized like this is a much bigger project than we thought initially, and then these guys contacted us. So it really worked out really well. But yeah, I mean the rig you guys built was really impressive in my opinion. Like it was. We were getting to a point where we were actually making some decent scans. Like we still have a bunch of scans I think that are unpublished. I'm not sure.
No, we do. And like, don't get me like the difference between our scans and their scans isn't much.
Yeah,
there's
in
not a
terms
big
of quality,
Yeah.
we're there. We got
Like
it.
we might not have the technology and stuff that these guys have to scan it. So that like we're not saying, oh, you need a massive rig to scan stuff. You don't. You can build your own
get
rig
away
and
with
scan
something
it. You
small.
can, yeah.
Yeah, it's just if you really want to deliver on a technical level and give all these extra maps, like we felt this was perfect for us. This color mass stuff, and then, yeah, we just ended up using that.
But I think that is
yeah,
out
I
of
think
time.
we are out of time, so I'm going to say goodbye, guys.
And then Dario's gonna come and join me. Just switch it off there. Sorry about that. There we go. Yeah. And then you can give me the laptop as well. Give me everything. I am in control now. Any questions while we have silence? Let me just open the chat here again. Let me check on Discord. I'm pretty sure someone posted something on Discord. I don't know where.
Where's
I
my
don't know.
mic?
Your mic is right here. I don't know where Greg checks the chat on Discord. You have any idea?
The chat on Discord.
The
no?
chat on Discord.
What do you mean?
Didn't he check the chat earlier on Discord?
No.
Or did he check it only on? Cool. Would also like to ask, are you planning on providing support for WEBP or compression images for your texture library? Just print your JPEG.
Hello. I'm
No,
back.
so currently we are not planning on adding any other support for any other formats. We are communicating with some companies and stuff to implement USDs and stuff like that, but I don't want to touch too much on that. Greg will touch more on that. If you ask him, I'll mention it to him and then he can talk more about that. But that's more a question for him that he can answer you and stuff. What,
Yeah.
Do you want the laptop or the controller for today?
I'm fine.
You don't want any? You want any?
Just give me one because I'm worried you're going to drop something.
Yeah, I'm running everything here. What are you doing, man? Okay, let's have a look here. So the moon scans.
Yeah, as you and me speak about the moon scans.
Yeah, let me see what we have here in our folder quickly. That's Splatterdash. That's fabric, so you can go back here. Moon scans. Cool. So we got some images here. So this is the moon project so far.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a really fun project, I won't lie.
Yeah. Just for some context, obviously, a researcher got in touch with us.
Yeah.
And he has regolith, which is a synthetic material that mimics dust
Sorry,
on
you
the
mind
moon.
switching back to it? Yeah.
And we went through. Some of the team went through to Germany to photoscan some of that stuff to help with the research that this researcher, scientist, student, what is
Scientist, a researcher, scientist.
Was doing.
Like one was still a student, and then one was a scientist. So they got in contact with us, and we had a once in a lifetime type of opportunity to go scan moon dust. Who would turn that over? Let's go to the moon. And yeah, it was basically he approached us on it and asked us do we want to do it and stuff, and we said yeah, and we did it out of our own regard and own pocket and stuff. They rented the space for us and allowed us to scan it, and then also helped us lay out some surfaces and stuff like that to scan everything there. So it was really
Very
nice.
cool. Yeah, I wish I could have gone. The team went during the same period of time that the team went to a Blender conference, so it was like a 2-in-1 trip for 3 members of the team. As for the actual scans, yeah, I mean they're coming out amazing. Greg has made cool renders with it already, with like a soccer ball on the moon, which is pretty funny. And the scans are really heavy.
Yeah.
So there's a ton of processing time for them.
So
The
yeah.
data sets are crazy, but so far I'm super happy with them. I really am.
So the experience was nice. We used the sea monster for this. So the specific reason we used the sea monster for this was also because you couldn't walk on this. What will happen is it looks solid. It looks like this all over. And when you walk on it, you'll get spaces which is you can walk on, and then you'll just take a footstep forward and you'll completely sink all the way into the bottom. The pit was 4 meters by 2 meters that we worked in. Greg did post some pictures, I don't know where those are, on the blogs and stuff, but it's a nice pit, and we used the sea monster to scan everything mostly. We did do some light scanning, but we had some major problems with light scanning. Because of how the regolith or the moon dust acts, you'll see the grooves, and there's those little pits and stuff in the surface. And those would you'd think, oh, okay, cool, the light scanning and stuff will pick up fine with that. But it doesn't. It just makes really big pits where the light just doesn't get into, and that's major problematic if you're trying to do a light scan. So a lot of the stuff we did do using the sea monster and photogrammetry, and that's how we did most of it. We did get some light scans, so if the holes on the moon dust wasn't too deep, we did light scans, and that worked perfectly for that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And then there was the macro scans, obviously, as well,
Yeah.
which are crazy and awesome, and they always end up quite nice, even for the amount of work that they take. So yeah, currently finishing, all of the
moon scans, yeah.
all of the scans, the rocks, the models, the textures, and then James is going to be putting together a little something from utilizing all of these assets, and so yeah, if people are looking forward to that, it'll be coming out sometime next year. I couldn't tell you exactly when. I don't want to make any promises because I'm not the leader of the team, but Greg knows. But I'm if I were to guesstimate, I'll probably say sometime early next year.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But we've also with the moon stuff and things, it was very dangerous to actually be around us, according to the scientists and stuff, because the way they made it is crushed rock and stuff. So it's like a very dry and a very sharp substance, and it doesn't just fall to the ground. It will float in the air and go into your lungs and stuff. So there was a lot of safety procedures and stuff in place to make sure we don't get hurt while scanning these things. Because if you're not wearing a mask, it will go into your lungs and you can develop cancer according to them and all of that stuff. So that was fun.
Sounds scary.
It was interesting.
And then we obviously they not obviously, but they got given some of the team got given some of the regulars to bring back here, which was cool to see, at least, because I was stuck on this side holding down the fort while everybody was away in Germany. So it was cool to have some brought back and to be able to interact with it and take a look at it. But yeah, really cool stuff.
But it was nice also having someone here on the side to assist, even though I'm sorry you stayed this side, or I'm sorry. But like, it was nice because he was able to, while we were in that side, to run some scan tests for us and check if the scans are good and stuff like that while we're that side.
Yeah.
So we weren't completely blind on just like, oh no, we're doing a scan, and then come back here like 2 weeks later and oh, the scan doesn't work. Like, so that was nice in that regard as well.
Yeah.
I don't know what
I
else
would
to
say that's about it. I don't think,
That is about it,
there's
actually.
much more to it. Obviously, look forward to the stuff that's coming.
I don't know how to get out of this.
Still me?
Yeah, you're staying here.
Yeah.
And then Gregory is coming in here with you, and you guys are going to be talking about a conclusion.
Yeah.
Okay. And then
Really good.
I'll mention that question you asked to Greg now while I go and grab him. Bye, guys.
Woo. Some nice weather today. Super nice end of year stuff for the team. We're just having a good time. Speaking of you guys, cooking up some meat, having a couple of drinks, it's lekker. It's good. Thanks for anybody tuning in. Super appreciated. Thanks for any of the support you guys have given Polyaven, whether it be via asset or monetary or just utilizing our stuff, sharing what we do with people. Thanks for that. Super appreciative of it. So yeah, the man himself eating chips.
I'm gonna wait until I finish chewing before I unmute. Unless it's been unmuted the whole time.
Yeah, do you want to grab this?
Wait, did I leave it unmuted?
No.
So we grab this.
What, the laptop?
Yeah. Because it's hot and I prefer if you had it on your lap.
Okay. Hey, we're making good time.
Nice. How long have we been going?
Just over an hour.
See.
Okay. I'm tired and I haven't even done anything.
Me too.
Cool. Janelle said there was a question.
Yeah.
Have you guys, I don't know if people have been going through questions.
We'll run through some of them now, if there are any. Why not?
Okay. I heard somebody talking about Jared's question. Modular assets. I'm sure James spoke about modular assets. Spoke about community projects.
The question had something about formats.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
Cool, okay. So, are you planning on providing support for WEBP and AVIF compressed images for your texture library? No. Not currently planning. I think it's something to look into. I think it's a matter of like what software supports things. I know WebP is quite well supported now. I'm not super clued up about AVIF. JPEG has a whole new generation of options, basically. JPEG is like one of the oldest, worst formats that exists, but in recent years there's been developments with JPEG and HDR and different compression methods, and the new JPEG is one of the best ones, but none of the software that we use even supports it in terms of output, so, or input for that matter. So it's currently, there's no point, but at any point we can convert the original PNGs to whatever format becomes popular. But for now, I don't really see much point. In terms of efficiency, like, we don't really care much about efficiency in terms of web storage and bandwidth and hard drive space. I think you'll gain very little from that, and it doesn't cost us very much or cost people very much to store that. And in terms of like rendering performance and things, offline renderers like Blender, they don't care what the format is. They just load the raw data into memory, and it's going to take up a lot of memory regardless of how the original file is compressed. And game engines have much more specific compression formats that we don't publish and get compiled down at build time and stuff like that. So it's not in the short-term plans, but it is something I keep my eye on, and it's fairly easy to support. Do you guys work full-time on Polyhaven? Yeah, so the 5 of us that are here, me and Dario, Janelle, James, and Rico. Yeah, we're all full-time on Polyhaven, doing various things.
4 of us being at the office and 1 being remote.
4 of us are here. Rico works from home.
Oh, and then Rob's not really full-time.
Rob's not really full-time. Rob is involved, but
Yeah.
it's not really, never really know what Rob's doing. And then we work with a bunch of contractors, like Meet is here, Dimitri. We work with him with materials and HDRIs. And Charlotte and Amal are elsewhere in the world. I think currently that's
Out there.
the only contractors we work with regularly. Jared doesn't count. Sorry, Jared. Jared does
By
HDRI
proxy.
stitching with Dimitri and video editing and stuff. Anyway, I think we can more or less wrap everything up. I don't think there were any more questions on Discord. No. Cool. Okay. So, I guess if anybody's been watching from the beginning, you'll have a pretty good idea of how many different things we've been doing this year. It's been a lot. It's been a lot of various things that overlap, and it's taken a bit of time to finish things and to prioritize different things and get the right people working on the right stuff. Hello, Mac. And I think that is something that will change next year. We're wrapping up a few things next year, the moon and the fabric stuff, and then after that we don't really have any solid plans, so we will be able to focus on the game development, the one game project and all the assets around that, and then the community project around that, and that's pretty much it. So we don't have a huge amount of expectations for next year. And I think that's a good thing. I think it will be nice to have less solid plans and be able to have a bit of freedom and explore and do things that we didn't necessarily plan to do, but think are a good idea in the moment, and just do that alongside the game stuff and the community projects and blah, blah, blah.
I think it's cool cool and interesting seeing how all the projects and all the things we worked on panned out in terms of how long they took and how that timeline went, expectations versus how things actually went, which is really interesting.
For sure.
And obviously, again, like always a learning experience whenever we do anything really, like give us some perspective and teach us what we're capable of in what time and how long specific things take, even if they're expected to take short and they don't, or they expect it to take long and they don't. Like nothing's ever really set to it's crazy.
Yeah, we're learning how to do Polyhaven things. I mean, there's a lot of overlap between what we do and what other studios and companies and businesses and projects, communities, but I think we have a fairly unique combination of things we want to do and how to accomplish them and how to make that sustainable. That it's a little tricky to figure out, but so far so good. Nothing is Nothing has gone wrong. I don't think we've made any mistakes. And we made small mistakes.
We're perfect.
We're not perfect, but I think in terms of big mistakes, I don't think we've screwed anything up royally. There are some things in the past that didn't really work out the way that we wanted them to, or we didn't do as well a job as we wanted to, but in the end, we're not perfect, and we do learn from that and take it to the next step. Like, for example, the Smuggler's Cove project was something that I look back and am a little disappointed in how that went. I think we had a bit more ambitious ideas, and it didn't work out the way that I hoped, but it still succeeded. Like, it was a Kickstarter for funding the work on the project, but that didn't work out well, because why would people support us on Kickstarter when we already have a Patreon and you know, we're already made half the assets, and it wasn't super well planned. But you know, learning from that experience is good, and it makes a lot of sense why it didn't work out the way that we thought it might. So I'm still happy with it. Otherwise, we are perfect, and we never make any mistakes. And I think that's a good place to end the stream on.
Yeah.
It looks like we're about ready to put the meat on the fire.
Ooh.
In case I forgot to mention it in the beginning, I know I said what a braai is, a barbecue, you know, cooking meat on a coal fire.
It's fine. I was just talking about it before you came.
Okay,
I was
good.
letting everybody know.
Letting everyone know that we're from South Africa.
Yeah, not specifically.
And
just
that makes
we're
us
gonna
very special.
chow down on some meat, and
Cool.
that's about it.
Okay, cool. Well then, let's call it there. Thanks everyone
Cool.
for joining us,
Thanks, guys.
and everyone who watches this after it's been live. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next year.
Yeah, if anybody has any, you know, I know like we're open for questions right now during the stream, but the Discord is there. If you want, if you have a question, you know, you pop it there. Somebody's going to respond to it.
Yeah.
for sure.
Cool.
Yeah.
Bye guys.
Cheers.
I have to click the end
Wrong
button.
one, wrong one. I went straight to technical difficulties.
Stream finished.